video we're going to look at how you can compare an athlete or a group of athletes against their teammates. That might be useful because it gives you an idea relative to the squad how good a particular score is from a test, or indeed how bad a score is. And also imagine a scenario where three athletes are competing for the same spot on the team. Perhaps it comes down to who's the fittest, and this gives you an idea of who that is. So we're going to do that in two ways. We're going to look at Z scores and we're going to look at the total score of athleticism. So I've computed all the data already and put the graphs together just to better explain what they are. But firstly, the Z score, and if we take this example here, the Z score says, right, relative to the average for each test, and here we've got counter movement jump, RSI, pro agility, and a 30-meter sprint. So relative to the average, how well did this athlete perform? So you can see here that this athlete performed above average on these two tests, but below average on these two. So you might say that in the next training cycle, this person should be focusing on RSI and change of direction speed. And again, you can see how that might change across other athletes. So here, perhaps they need to focus predominantly on counter movement jump height, for example. In this example down here, we've compared three athletes against each other. And we might say that, okay, if there's one spot on the team, then we're going to take the athlete in green because that person is physically fittest. You can also represent that in a number of ways. We might prefer to represent that as a radar plot. So if it goes down, and again, you still get the same picture. Here, of course, we want the green line or all the lines to be as close to the edge as possible, because the score you get along the side here represents the magnitude with which someone is better or indeed worse than the group average. So secondly, we have this total score of athleticism, and that's quite a useful one because sometimes you'll go to meetings and you'll have the performance director or the coach and staff, and they're not necessarily interested in who can jump the highest or who can squat the most, and maybe they don't even want to discuss that. They just want to know who's the fittest. So assuming that these scores represent the demands of the sport, then we can sum that together to get this total score of athleticism. And again, that's important because it's not just about who can sprint the fastest or who can bench the most. It's about who's good across the board at relevant measures of fitness. So here we'd sum it together, and again we can illustrate that in much the same way. So here we have that same chart, and we'd say that this athlete here is the best, and this one down here is the worst. So we can provide that as a rank as well within the squad, just to make that distinction a little bit clearer. And this is the best athlete, and we've got the traffic light system to say anyone in green, physically you're in a good place, and anyone in red, you guys need to fix up and work hard in the next training cycle. So let's go ahead and look at how we can compute these scores. So again, we've got the best score from our tests, and in previous videos we've looked at how to determine whether a test is reliable, and we're going to assume that they are in this scenario. And we've looked at how to compute the mean, so average, and the standard deviation, which is what we need to put together a Z score. So a Z score is as follows. It's the raw score of the athlete minus the squad average divided by the squad standard deviation. And so that we can drag this cell down and across, yet we want to stick these cells in place. We want to fix the mean and standard deviation. We're just going to put a dollar sign there because those cells obviously don't move. Press enter, and then we can drag that down and drag that across. And as a good marker, it's always good just to pick a random athlete and just make sure that's right. So going across, that does indeed reflect that athlete, and here we have the average and the standard deviation in the appropriate colors as well. So let's just go across to check one more. Yeah, and it again matches up with the data. One final check, if I've got the average here, I can drag that across, and all of these should equal 0, which they do. So now I can draw my graphs and hold down Command or Control depending on what type of computer I've got, and start to look at these graphs. Now I prefer the histogram, and I prefer to say that anything above 0 is better than average and everything below is worse. So it means I have to make one modification to the speed scores, because obviously we want lower scores here whereas we want higher scores here. So what I'm going to do is go to the speed scores, and I'm going to times the whole lot by -1. All that will do is flip the negative signs into positive, and vice versa. So we go back to this -1, drag it down, and that will be my check to see if that goes to positive, which it has, and then I'll do the same again here as well. So times -1, and again I use that as my reference to check that that's worked, and it has. So I can highlight the test names, hold down Command, and I can do that across a couple of athletes if I keep my hand on Command, and then again start to draw the graph. So this TSA then is just a sum of these Z scores, so equals sum, drag across the Z scores and press enter, and then again if I drag that down, we can put together that graph like we saw previously. So again, this athlete being my best, this one here looks to be my worst physically. To put their rank with respect to 24 different athletes that they've been tested against, we use the rank function, equals rank, tells you what to do. So highlight this number, what reference do you want within this reference here, and again, so that we can drag it down but lock this reference range in, we just put a $sign in front of the cell numbers. So now I can drag it down, and again this looks to be my best athlete, second best athlete, my worst athlete here. So finally what we can do is traffic light that. So if we go to some icon sets, let's use the traffic light system, why not? And it puts it in place. Unfortunately it's given a red light to 1, thinking that's the worst score, and I guess 24 the highest. So if we go into here, manage rules, edit the current rule we have, and just reverse the icon order, press OK, and it will just switch it around for us so that 1 becomes the best. Okay, so that's the how to compare athletes using Z scores and the total score of athleticism.